to Orlando. I spoke to a few of you already, and some of you brought your grandkids here to Orlando for obvious reason. You want to provide the happiest moment of their childhood while visiting here in Orlando. 27 years ago, my wife and I visited Orlando, Disney for the very first time on our honeymoon, and we had a wonderful time. That is not the case for Elon Musk. When he was a child, his father and he from Canada drove to Orlando. Went to the Disney ticket office, sticker shock. The father could not buy the tickets, so they just played a few rounds of putt-putt golf before heading back to Canada. Now you know why Elon Musk has no empathy. Furthermore, he is running with a slogan, Silicon Valley slogan. Move fast and break things. This is how Silicon Valley works. This is how you make the social network the best. This is how you make the space rocket. This is how you have to constantly move and break things. Of course, you're going to make the error in the process, but that is his mindset. So today, we have a politically active audience. Mark Twain once said, there are lies, damn lies, and statistics. Well, statistics is something that you cannot really change the facts, but you can present it a little differently. So let's do that. This is home sales under President Trump's first term and President Biden's term. So President Trump is saying, look, you have to elect me. If you elect Sleepy Joe, we're going to get a sleepy housing market. Now good. Statistics, you can twist it all the way differently. It's a factual information, but you're presenting it a different way. President Biden can respond backwards to say, guess what? I think you forgot about Biden inflation. And therefore, home prices is also part of that inflation. That's part of the commission income that the realtors would make from it. So you had a boost in prices. So again, just putting the statistics in more political angle here. But let's go to more logical things, because he's trying to put everything in a 4-year time frame. There are so many things happening: COVID, federal monetary policy, there could be some external geopolitical event. It is very silly to attribute any type of results, home sales or prices, to a presidency. If we look at the home sales condition, 2019 pre-COVID, and you may say that is normal, and I think that is a good way to interpret it, because 2018, 2017, 5 years prior to pre-COVID, home sales were running essentially at around 5.5 million. Then the COVID hit, low interest rate, you had a frenzy activity. Then high mortgage rate really killed off the market. In the past 2 years, I'm sure you have heard in the headline, the worst home sales the past 30 years. 2 straight years of worst home sales in the past 30 years. Very difficult business environment. Now the builders, they're a much smaller market, representing only maybe 10% of overall home sales. They are back. They're back to pre-COVID. Their month's supply of inventory, 8 months supply. They have plentiful inventory out there. And therefore, they can do the sales. Because we know why you cannot do the sales. Your past client said, I am not going to list my property. I love my 3% mortgage rate. There's no way I'm going to get that up. But the builders keep building. They have the inventory. They can do the sales. They are back up to pre-COVID. But what we are finding is that for the realtors, even though last year was very difficult, the final months of last year showed some bright signs. After 3 years of falling home sales, in October we got the first increase. the November further increase. I'm comparing with the same time period year before. Winter, you cannot compare with summer. So you have to compare November with November, December with December, and so forth. So we have had 4 straight months of increase in activity. Little bright sign that maybe the market, the worst in the market is coming to an end. And the reasoning is the worst in inventory is coming to an end. After falling inventory for many, many years, and as Shannon McGann always said, we've been telling the legislatures, we've been telling the people in the White House there is a housing shortage. This was back in 2019. We were saying that. We had falling inventory. The inventory situation simply exacerbated because people did not want to list their property, so we had extremely low inventory. We cannot get the business done, but look what's happening. Finally, we are getting some inventory onto the market. Now, we would need additional 50% growth in inventory to get us back to 2019 pre-COVID. But the worst appears to be coming to an end. Now, those with your past clients with 3% mortgages, they're not putting their home on the market, or are they? Well, first thing is that because the market is not as heated as before, we are no longer getting that intense multiple offers. Only a few properties now getting sold above this price. But there's still some lingering multiple offers happening. Price the home correctly, and you may still get some multiple offers, but pretty much the market is much calmer now than before. We often hear about 90%, overwhelming number of homeowners, they're locked in. Among the 88 million property owners in America, did you know that the largest slice of pie are free and clear? They're not locked in. They can move at any time they want to. They don't have a mortgage. If you look at the pink color, there are 11.6 million homeowners who have mortgage rates of less than 3%. And you may say they're truly locked in. Unless there are some major life-changing events. Then they have to give up maybe a new job at a different city, maybe a death in the family, maybe the family size is growing, so you need a larger size home. But overall, unless there is a major significant life-changing events, people with low interest rate that would not list their property. But the large portion, 35 million, the blue, can move at any time. But they are not moving because their accountants said don't move. If you move, you're going to pay high capital gains tax. That is why we know what our policy on capital gains exemption, a figure that has not been changed for 30 years. If we had index to inflation, Social Security check is indexed to inflation, many government spending is indexed to inflation. If we had indexed to inflation, that $250,000 for a single, $500,000 for married couple, that figure would be essentially double today. And therefore, especially among the elderly, they can say, oh, I can list my property and I can sell without a tax implication. So trying to get more inventory onto the market. So home sales forecasts historically depend upon 2 factors. Common sense factors. More job, more home sales, and lower mortgage rate, more home sales. Common sense. And when I run through the statistical modeling, this is what pops out. Yes, jobs and mortgage rates are very, very important. Except this real estate cycle, we have a third factor, which is inventory. So anything to bring more housing supply will help more transaction, more business activity for you and from America. We cannot be stuck at home. We need to move. Mobility implies we are making progress in our life. If we're stuck in one location, we're just stuck. We want to show some mobility in America. So getting more inventory will mean more mobility in America. So let's look at the factors. Jobs, mortgage rate, inventory. Inventory I already mentioned. Turning the corner, because with each passing day, another life-changing event for someone. So all these accumulated life-changing events means more inventory will suddenly appear on the market. Policy changes, things like capital gains exemption changes or other stimulus to bring more supply onto the market, that will be additional inventory. The job situation, we have had a record high employment. So we had that COVID disruption towards the end, fast lockdown, but we have come out of the lockdown. Unemployment rate during COVID was 14%, but today, one of the lowest unemployment rates in the country. In fact, we still see a lot of help wanted signs in many places. Here in Orlando specifically, unemployment rate shot up to 30% during the lockdown. And that's why maybe one of the reasons why Florida was one of the first states to reopen its economy, because they did not want to see 30% unemployment rate here in Orlando. Something that you have seen before, but constantly updated with new fresh data. And the Greens are the superstars, fast job-creating states. Florida showing 11.0% more jobs today compared to pre-COVID. So Greens doing super well, dark blue above national average, light blue trailing behind, but still positive. One thing that pops out is Louisiana. Louisiana realtors, when I speak to them, they're excited about potential natural gas, liquefy and export, job creation through that. So maybe Louisiana will soon turn positive. So just looking at the timeline, Florida is one of the top markets. Here we are in Florida. This will be the overall number of jobs over the years. 3 million more jobs compared to year 2000. But it's never a straight line. It goes through cycles, as you can see. I did a little briefing to Connecticut legislature earlier in the year about the housing market condition. But I also wanted to present to the Connecticut legislature, look, you are not adding jobs. You need to also consider, certainly more home sales will boost some jobs in Connecticut, but you should also understand Connecticut is not like Florida in this case. But also note that the fluctuation of the jobs in Connecticut, never a straight line. The only place where there is a straight line is Washington, D.C. Except for the COVID disruption. Some people say D.C. area recession-proof because of the federal government. This is the first time in my life where I see people in the neighborhoods around me, because I live in the D.C. suburbs, they cannot go to sleep at night. They don't know if Elon Musk will be knocking on their door tomorrow morning. Maybe, given that D.C. was recession-proof for so long, some little fluctuation, is it a good thing to bring a little reality of what the rest of America could be feeling at times? But D.C. market, like this, what you see. Now let's go to the mortgage rate, another important factor for home sales. And this graph pisses me off. The blue line is the Federal Reserve. The red line is the 30-year fixed rate mortgage. So in September, Federal Reserve cut interest rates. This will again in November, and then in December. Mortgage rates misbehaving, not following the direction of the Federal Reserve. Rising, rising, rising. January was the highest mortgage rate in about 6 months, and that will really begin to tap out some of the housing affordability. Home sales simply cannot click if the mortgage rate keeps rising. Good news. Today, this morning, I look at the 10-year Treasury yield. It looks like today we will have the lowest mortgage rate since President Trump was inaugurated. So let's see whether this trend continue or not. But so far, at least up to this graph point, it's been misbehaving. And consequently, just be mindful, it's been very difficult to get the home sales done in this environment. So the mortgage rate refused to budge. But if you look at the variation, you find something interesting. FHA and VA mortgages, because of the explicit government guarantee, you carry lower mortgage rates today. A few years ago, if you had a buyer with FHA, you had no chance to buy a home because of the lengthy process in a multiple offer situation. Now you have a much better chance. 30-year fixed rate, 15-year Fannie and Freddie backed mortgages, but look at the jumbo. What would happen if Fannie and Freddie were purely privatized without government guarantee? Which is the reason why NAR believes that mortgages are not like AI innovation, it's plain vanilla. Just make sure people do not overstretch, even 30 years, so there's not much need to do, so government guarantee is fine. And to assure that we have 30-year fixed rate mortgage, and furthermore, a little bit lower rate than what the jumbos would offer. So the mortgage rate has been misbehaving, partly because consumer price inflation refused to go down. So in September, mortgage inflation rate was 2.5%, but ever since then, creeping upwards. Inflation not contained. That's why mortgage rate is misbehaving. So what is the prospect of falling inflation and consequently falling mortgage rates? Tariffs, we know immediately, that's inflationary. But something less visible, less able to measure, is deregulation. President Trump is spreading out less regulation, less paperwork requirement, and maybe this will filter in to say, okay, lower business operating costs, I don't have to charge so much. So that could be disinflationary. Oil summer. Well, let me put it this way. This is the gasoline prices. So you can see pre-COVID, then high gasoline prices, which you experienced, and now it looks like we are almost back to pre-COVID. What do we mean by oil summit? It's something that I could notice. Potential meeting of Trump and Putin in Saudi Arabia. Of course, it's about Ukraine. But if I think about oil producers, there are three top, by far, biggest producers: Saudi Arabia, Russia, and United States. Fourth place, I don't know. They're so far down, but three big ones will be meeting. I wonder whether they're going to discuss oil, gasoline prices. National debt, as we know, is very high. And I've been saying that we will not return to 4% or 5% mortgage rate, as was the case under first President Trump. Because the first blue arrow is what President Trump faced when he entered the office in 2017. Second blue arrow is what he's facing today. To the degree that Elon Musk can reduce the budget deficit, maybe we can have a little lower mortgage rates. When Elon Musk is discovering a couple of $1 million here, $5 million there, in the overall context, it doesn't really impact this figure so much. But then you look at what they spent on, and you say, cut it out. Social Security, medical care. President Trump said, don't touch it. But Elon Musk, yeah, I'm touching it. I see people who are 150 years old. They're probably dead or should be famous, according to you. The email that was sent to government employees, what did you do? Part of the reason for that is to see how many dead government employees cannot respond to that email.
Wow, smart.
So let's see what happened on the budget deficit side. But for the sake of time, let me go to my final slide. Future vision of America. A couple of top New York Times sellers. My father is reaching almost 90 degrees. He's at an early stage of dementia. During his younger age, he was very dynamic. Part of the aging process. So when President Biden at the White House, I see how he's behaving, I feel sorry for how he's behaving. But all the policy decisions, I'm sure he's by his advisors. What book were his advisors reading? I think they were pretty much reading the book on freedom by Timothy Snyder. It shows why we have to be engaged in Ukraine. It shows why January 6th was the most horrible thing for democracy. And then, you know about JD Vance, especially his recent speech in Europe, where he said the threat to Europe is not Putin, but it could be within. Where you are ignoring your borders. No European borders to bring in the immigrants to the country. Yet you are constantly bringing the immigrants, and somebody expressed some concern about it, and you are suppressing that speech. So two different visions of it. I want to bring this up first because both are from Ohio. Graduated from Ohio, one from Centerville High School, one from Middletown High School. I think they're close by, nearby each other. But they come up with a little better things than Centerville and Middletown. Middle America. But as you think about these books, not the content, it should bring a little smile to your face. Smile in the sense that I'm sure those when they were graduating from high school, Centerville, Middletown, they never thought what they would be at this period. Yet from middle America, ordinary person graduating from high school, it could easily be your son, it could easily be your granddaughter, your niece, nephew, graduating from some high school. You don't know what there will be in the future. But this is what America offers, to say that even on a very important policy, middle America, they can bring out the ideas. So with that, thanks to you.